Why are the northern leaders now running helter skelter? Because the United States mission in Nigeria have just exposed that the leaders, the people who are involved in illegal extractions of the natural resources, and of course, these are people who are not even remitting the funds to the federal coffers, are largely the northern Fulani oligarchs. The United Mission went ahead to expose that these are erstwhile military generals, that politicians, legislators, that they are the one behind the insecurity that we have in the north. Because the insecurity is basically for the exploitations of the resources of the north. These are not hidden secrets. In fact, these are open knowledge to everybody in Nigeria and most especially in the south. As a southerner that I am, we know that the gold in Zamfara, right, is being looted, and there is a runway right there in Gusau in Zamfara state, right there in the desert, that immediately on a daily basis, nothing less than 10 tons of raw gold are being exported to Dubai. A tonnage of a gold, right, when it is sold, if that money is injected in Nigerian economy, Nigeria will stabilize. Nigeria's life, everybody collectively will live a better life. But yet, these selfish northern leaders have what? They have left their people uneducated, right? Whereby they give them crumbs, they tell them, go to elementary schools, radicalize them to give them guns, like you fight for your God, fight for your faith, right? And by so doing, there is a mass, there is an event of insecurity around that vicinity, and at the end of the day, you see that people can no longer live there, and they go in and extract the natural resources. United States mission in Nigeria were the very first people that exposed that the Reverend Father that came to America to complain about the massacre of the people of the Middle Belt. America were the one that exposed that Reverend's village and hometown is now being attacked. If you are a southerner and you are listening to me, this is another reason why on my channel, on a daily basis, I come to conscientize you that the facade, that rhetorics, that toga that keep Nigeria united is basically being propagated by the north, because they know that they are the biggest beneficiaries in this unholy marriage. A marriage whereby the north are spending their own resources, right? The elites of the north are enjoying their resources amongst themselves because they have a cabal, they have a local network. But in the south, even though we have the cabals in the south, the likes of Tombolo, Ateketom, Asari Dokubo, but we know that the resource in the south to a large extent is what is still keeping this farce, this illusion of a country called Nigeria standing. When the Southerners eventually wake up and they become drastically radicalized, with the South unite and say that, you know what, we don't even want to fund anything again. Let us, that resource, if not, we'll have such amount of gold. Do you know what I am talking about in Zamfara? In Zamfara, you can just scrape the soil. Just you scraping the soil, you go see gold. I'm telling you. And we in Nigeria, we are suffering. The Middle Belt suffering, the South poverty, the same North poverty. The country is only sustaining and relying on a particular region, the South. You see, the United States mission must understand that it is not just enough for them to expose the illegalities, this I mean, because this is an abomination, an abnormality that should never happen. It is not enough for them to expose it. They must go beyond that. Now they must begin to hit the nail on the head that the exploiters of the Nigerian entity, right, must be dealt with. They must begin to instigate what we call the consciousness of the South. The Nigerian South is asleep. We are too docile in the South. Let's just, let us change the position that it is in North that we have the oil. My brother, what it is? They go down go. When Black and White TV was launched in the early 50s or 60s, the North go down depart. They go down depart. Telling you the fact. They would have departed. They would have called the South the kingdom of Keferis, that they are pagans. Yes, that would they will just use a religious term to extricate themselves. Yes, that's what they're going to do. But somehow, we in the South, I don't know how we found ourselves in this, disadvantageous position, and yet we are so comfortable in it. When those of the South who are enlightened enough try to speak up, the likes of Mazin Namdekan, the likes of Sunday Igbo, so many of them, when they try to speak up, like, listen, and by the way, Namdekan and Sunday Igbo were not the first secessionists. They were not. The man in Ogoni, I can't remember his name, that man in Ogoni, that man that was killed, Ken Sarawiwa, one time I've said that let Ogoni kingdom be. That we of the Ogoni cannot be the major financier. Like, we are the one bringing the oil. Our land used to be known to be a fisherman town, but when the the discovery of oil happened, we couldn't fish. While we were fishing, we were convenient and comfortable in our average lifestyle. But when the oil came, the oil resources, the oil funding is being carted away, and they use trailer, carry the oil money, go dump off Abuja in the north. Is that enough? On that course, Ken Sarawiwa was killed by Abacha. So we must get the fact that for United States to be bringing issues like this up, they need us to key into that statement. As a Southerner, we need to key in. And as you can see on my screen, that is the exposition there, the expose, right? On their social media handle, we need to go in there and bombard them, that we need them not just to expose them now, but we need them to start pushing for policies, using conditions on Nigeria. If they need to place some form of tariffs, ban, if these resources are not, rightly distributed. Because this is possible. We know what US did in support of Ukraine. We know how they placed tariff on Russia. When Russia bombarded Ukraine, we know what America did. That if you don't stop, for a period of almost 2 years now, we know what Russia has been going through because America wanted to defend Ukraine. I think in Nigeria, we need to get to that point, and we as the South, we don't keep quiet and expect help to come. We need to open our mouth. We need to be frank with ourselves. Any presidential candidate, right, that does not want to fight for the interests of the South, collective South, shouldn't be supported. We can no longer be the stooge. We can no longer be the elephant who is walking but then eats like an ant in this contraption. It is abhorrent. I cannot be walking like a giant and then I'm eating like a dwarf. How about now? That is total cheating, inequality, injustice. There cannot be peace where there is injustice, where there is inequality. And I most appreciate the US mission. However, they need to go beyond that. For those wanting, please kindly like, share, and subscribe. Bye for now. Hello, fellas. One of our monsters yesterday got a life-threatening experience. I'm talking about Wike, right? Wike's jet almost crashed yesterday, and to my disbelief, this man was kaboshing, speaking in tongues. But let us quickly watch the video. I'll analyze that issue. Then we're going to talk about how the Fulanese are currently doing everything to destroy the image of the Yorubas, that they were the ones that instigated, that plotted the Biafra, that pushed the North and the Southeast to fight that war. Let us quickly watch Wike's video right away. Stellenbosch. So even the devil speaks in tongue. Yeah, well, I never knew speaking in tongues was not a divine, wasn't a divine, or you cannot, because a person like Wike, I mean, there are so many reports out there that Wike, when he was the River State governor, right, he was a crusher. He was a man who was a moving train. I mean, that was the song they used to sing for him. They call him Nyeshiri, moving train. Anybody that comes his way, he crushes it. You know what that means in the local parlance? It simply means when you do not agree with Wike's, line of agenda, you are taken out. You are taken out politically. In fact, humanly, you can be taken out. Yeah. But what do we have? Wike, who single-handedly made Nigeria to be under this quagmire of Tinubu. Let me tell you, because if a Wike had not frustrated a Peter Obi, yes, imagine a Wike had supported a Peter Obi in PDP. Like, okay, guys, South have had their turn. Let me be my brother's keeper. Peter Obi, come, let me support you. But I will have a share in your government, but let me support you. And they went into that campaign in PDP, had that, loggerheads with an Atiku. I am damn sure they would have defeated Atiku, right? And today, a Peter Obi, looking at the level of popularity he had in 2022 to 2023, they would have won. But we saw a Wike, because of the kind of monster he is, he decided to pitch his tent with another bigger monster. And yet there he was, kaboshing, skileboshing, I mean, calling Jesus, say enemies. Who are your enemies? Let me tell you, if anything happens to Wike, he must understand that it is karma. Period. What we call karma, that is it. The same Wike, right, that went on grabbing people's land. Wike's existence as FCT minister in the past 1 to 2 years has been nothing but disastrous for the Abuja people. We have seen so many people going to strokes, so many people have heart attack. Right there in River State, we saw how he collected, using government power to just retrieve, forcefully grab people's lands, you revoke their licenses, and he expects to just live a life of, freedom. Oh, come on, man. That's not going to happen. That will never happen, Wike. Yes. I'm going to show you the complete video. Now, let us go to the issue of the North. On my screen there, that memo was released by a northern, Fulani guy. He said the Yorubas were the perfect schemers and plotters of the Biafran War. That before the Biafran War, the North and the old Eastern region were they were indeed best allies. And I tend to agree, because before the old Biafran War, we were very sure that those that dominated the Nigerian politics was the North and the old Eastern region, that consisted of the Southeast, the South, period. In fact, as at that time, the minority in the Nigerian politics was Westerners. Say whatever you want to say, because as of 1963, 62, the Prime Minister was Tafawa Balewa. The president was who? Nnamdi Azikiwe, right? And they were there for a couple of years. And they were the one controlling the polity of Nigeria. Okay? Now, the Northerners said the Southwest needed a chaos to happen so they could come into that gap and actually grab power. While I agree that this might sound like an evil genius, right? But I am in a situation that I need to be objective. That why now? Period. That why now? If you're a Yoruba person, pay attention and listen to me objectively. I want you to pay attention and listen objectively. However, at the end of this channel, you might hate me. I don't know, but you have to be objective here. The question is why now? And also to my Eastern brothers, why now will a Northern Fulani influencer start preaching this sort of divisive, an inflammatory statement? Right? Because I know that what they want to do is build up, rile up, that vile, that enmity. Right? Because they know that there's always a friction between the Southwest and the Southeast. They know. Right? And they have always been able to forge ahead in the Nigerian polity because they know that the Southeast and the Southwest, at a touch of that trigger, they break up. And then they come in and then they